And Mr. Mayor, we are now live on YouTube and on the website.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. This is, let's see, it's November 9th, 2020, and this is the full meeting of Gulf Manor Village Council. And if you would help me get started with the Pledge of Allegiance the way we usually do. Before we do, though, Mr. Hirth, we lost the flag as
Okay,
our.
right back.
All right. All right, if you would, as you are able, join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. And if I may ask Mr. Lanzer for a roll call.
Yes, Mr. Batcher.
Here.
Ms. Cheney.
Here.
Mr. Knitt. Mr. Knitt. Mr. Pridnoff.
Present.
Ms. Snyder.
Here.
Mr. Van Harn.
Present. And I did have connection with Danny. It sounds like he was going to be here, so I don't know what he was planning on it, so I don't know where he's at.
Can I have a motion to excuse Mr. Knitt?
So motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, without objection, I'll take that as unanimous. And I suspect he'll be joining us shortly. I hope he does. Has everyone had an opportunity to look at the agenda? And if so, do we have a motion to adopt the agenda?
Motion to adopt.
Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, looks like unanimous to me. And I do not have any persons registered to address council. Is that still correct?
That is correct.
All right. And we have some minutes to be approved from October 26, 2020. Is there any discussion or any questions about those minutes before I ask for a motion to approve? All right, is there a motion to approve? All right, is there a second?
Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, I take that as unanimous. Thank you. Let's see. Chief Timmers, I guess we have you at the top of the agenda so that you can get the heck out of here when you're done.
Thank you, Mayor. Okay, let's start off with talking about some of the employees. We have a new paramedic, Kim Iffick, passed her paramedic, but we are losing a paramedic. Braden Young took a full-time job at the city of Reading. So he left us, his last shift was Friday. So we wish him luck. There's a possibility he can come back. He's in with probation. The chief does not like them to work part-time jobs. So we wish him luck. With the COVID, unfortunately, we've had a couple of people that's had COVID. Brian Young just got over it, and we were just advised today that one of our part-timers tested positive. So we had to go through the station again today and put an application of some stuff on to make sure that everything was taken care of. So I'm sure that most of you have heard. It wasn't a secret. One of our vehicles was involved in an accident on Lasanaville, struck a fire hydrant, made quite a scene. So that is being taken care of. With Elmwood, I did talk to Chief Young, and apparently their meeting got canceled. So I'm reaching out to him again to find out when they're going to meet. So, and speaking of hydrants, they are finishing up on hydrants. They're pumping out the ones that are wet. So you have the run data. If there's any questions on anything, let me know.
Thank you, Chief. Are there any questions? I actually have a couple before I let you go here. Are there any other questions from council members?
Oh,
Okay,
Mayor, before you ask your questions,
Sure.
I want to once again thank Roger Van Horn's daughter for the generous donation to the fire department. That was very appreciated. So, and it'll be put to good use. So, Roger, thank you very much. Let her know.
very good.
Okay, Mayor.
Yes, couple questions. One is on the inside outside Golf Manor piece. I know that these are stats for Station 47. I was curious if in future reports, if we can have a breakdown of what is because I know that sometimes Station 47 is called outside of the Golf Manor area for calls. And I'd like to have a sense and like to have the council members have a sense of, you know, what that breakdown is.
Okay.
How much they're outside versus inside.
And the runs that you do see here, that's included, but I didn't put what communities. But if you want me to, I can do that then.
Yeah, I would appreciate that.
Okay.
And the other one that I had is with COVID, and this is going to be a part of my report too. We're getting asked at the state level to kind of double down on our seriousness of the message that we're putting out there to people about how serious this is and everything. When I'm looking at this report and I see like that there was 10 cases of trouble breathing and everything, I'm wondering, is there a way to break it down and say these were like a certain number were suspected COVID kind of stuff? So also, again, that we can give our council members a sense of, you know, how much our first responders are interacting with this in the community.
Yeah, and sometimes it's hard unless they get tested, Mayor. Sometimes we are advised that they are COVID patients. I can try to put that in there also. But sometimes it's hard to say.
Yeah, understood. If you could make that effort, it'd be much appreciated.
Sure.
Thank you.
Sure.
And if there's no other questions, then I will allow Chief Timmers to be excused if he so desires.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you, Mayor.
All right.
Have a good night.
Thank you. You too. All right. For my report, folks, let me find my report. I have 3 screens and I can't find my cursor. Anybody have that trouble? Here we go. All right. All right. First off, I wanted to let everybody know that I attended Corporal Adam McMillan's visitation at Spring Grove Cemetery. Want to thank any of the council members who did so also. I know members of the administration attended, including Ron, and I'm very proud of that. And so thank all who attended. Also want to remind everyone that Veterans Day is this Wednesday. Want to encourage everybody to, if not this Wednesday, sometime head down to our Veterans Park and read the names in the bricks that have been dedicated to the residents of Golf Manor that have served our country in military service. Our Veterans Park is beautiful. My wife and I head down there a couple times a month with our kids. In the summer months, it's about 2 or 3 times a week that we head down there. I've informed the administration that's a priority of mine to finish the sidewalk in the park that enables visitors to travel from the front of the park to the back where there's a garden. So get down to the park this week. If you can, take a look at the dedications and join me in making the completion of that sidewalk a goal for completion before next Veterans Day. Reminder that my COVID report that I give, the data numbers included in that portion of the report are provided by Hamilton County Emergency Management, Homeland Security Agency Emergency Operations Center. This past Friday, the state of Ohio reported the highest single day increase of COVID-19 cases, reporting over 5,000 new cases in one day. In my previous report, I noted that we had the highest single day increase. That was 2,500 new cases. So it's half our present record here. Adult medical surgical bed utilization in Hamilton County has increased to 89% capacity. In Hamilton County, adult care bed utilization has increased to 90% capacity. Grocery stores and other store chains have announced the return of purchasing limits on some durable goods to prevent stockpiling as demand has increased. The Board of Directors of the Ohio Municipal League's Mayor Association sent a letter urging mayors to make a greater commitment and further action to create a heightened awareness of the importance of taking the steps that health experts have identified as crucial in fighting what has become the rapid spread of the coronavirus. I'm going to go ahead and read that. It's about 3 or 4 paragraphs. I'm going to go ahead and read that letter. Dear Mayor, when in past years our country has been threatened by common enemy, our country has united to defeat the enemy. We simply have to do that again. As elected leaders of the Mayor's Association of Ohio, we're writing to urge you, our colleagues from across our great state, to join together to impress upon the citizens of our respective communities the importance of taking the steps that best equip them to succeed in our fight against COVID-19. The economic and social disruption caused by the pandemic is devastating. The closure of businesses, some of which will never reopen, the strain on critical infrastructure, and the adjustments that have impacted business and education have been dramatic. Not only has the pandemic been devastating to our health, but the economic impact on jobs, businesses, and local revenues has been unprecedented in modern times. As the leaders of our cities and villages, we must work hard to advance the important message that wearing masks, maintaining social distance, and avoiding large groups are the best tools we have to prevent the continued spread of the coronavirus. The only way to revitalize our communities is to bring the number of coronavirus cases down and allow our communities to begin the healing process physically, emotionally, and financially. We must do what we can to prevent the continued devastation and the resulting long-term consequences of COVID-19. The time is now to make the sacrifices necessary so that we build the future. As mayors, we're in a critical position to urge the residents of our communities to work together to slow the spread of the coronavirus. Ohio cannot heal and recover unless we come together against this common enemy and do what we can to protect one another. We urge you to do your part to help Ohioans work together to ensure a strong, bright future of our state. Wearing masks, maintaining social distance, and avoiding large gatherings seems a small sacrifice to ask our residents to make. And that's sincerely all the members of the board of the Municipal League's Mayor's Association. Most Ohioans are aware we have a color-coded system for designating the level of emergency due to COVID-19 in each county. If you'd like to have a deeper understanding of how a county gets the color they're designated, I have a PDF that goes into quite a bit of detail on that. I've linked it in my report here, so you'll see it when my report gets online. There's like 6 indicators, and basically, if you have 2 indicators and you're this color, if you have more than that, then you have this color. They're looking at adding 2 more indicators as well, so that there'll be 8 indicators, and there's a discussion of those included in the PDF as well. So it's a good resource to keep you up to date and help you answer any questions that residents may have. I got the PDF because I had questions about how the heck some of this stuff was being determined. And I was having a really hard time finding answers to my questions online, and eventually had to just go directly to the health director to say, can you find me a resource on this? And they were able to come through on that. So it's a great resource, and hope that it's helpful to you. The Deer Park superintendent announced last week that the Deer Park junior and senior high schools will remain in remote learning mode through at least the end of Thanksgiving break. They had previously hoped to return to face-to-face by Friday of last week, but they still have 13 students quarantined in their junior high and 3 in their senior high. In my previous report, I said that Cincinnati Waldorf Grade School was planning to return after their quarantine to face-to-face classes on 11/2. That was an error. Their plan, if quarantining was successful, was to return on 11/5, which they did do. That was last Thursday. PRM remains in a blended learning model, which is a mix of in-person instruction and at-home learning. I know this week with, I believe it's midterms, they're out this week. I am going to defer to our education chair, Ms. Cheney, if she has a report on this later on, and if she doesn't, I'll just ask her to get with me to help me understand. I'm having a hard time tracking what's going on with PRM. A lot of the schools will have updates on their websites about where they stand with regard to the whole COVID situation, but I'm not finding the information from PRM. Happy that it appears that they are doing well, but feel a little bit out of loss in terms of reporting in my report what's going on with them there. The final thing in terms of education that I'm aware of is that all Cincinnati public school enrollees or families have available to them the Cincinnati Digital Academy for families that want their children to stay in full online distance learning mode, and a link to that as well is in my report here. Cincinnati Children's Hospital is seeking 500 individuals to participate in a phase 3 trial for the AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine. The hospital is particularly interested in recruiting African Americans, Latinos, individuals that are 65 years or older, as well as first responders. More information can be found at a link that I've provided in my report here. And a reminder that applications are open for the latest CARES Act relief funding package from the state. Applications opened on November 2nd at www.businesshelp.ohio.gov. And again, there's a link here in my report. As far as Halloween recap, great job to everyone involved in making Halloween a success in the village this year. I heard from several people that they witnessed more children and families out and about than in previous years, which is a great testimony to the revitalization of our neighborhood. I want to especially acknowledge all the hard work that went into making it a safe Halloween. I want to thank our police department and all the folks following the mask and social distance recommendations. I love seeing all the creativity that was deployed to maintain social distance while distributing candy. The candy shoots were a big hit with my kids. Our kids had a blast, and it was by far one of the best Halloween events to date for us. So thank you to all involved. Concerning the election news, whether you voted early in person or by mail or on election day, thank you for doing your civic duty. According to several national newspapers, the turnout is on track to be the highest in the history of the country. Election day went very smoothly here in the village. Cincinnati Public Schools says thank you for passage of the school levy. And issue 10 passed by a 70-30 margin in favor. In my previous report, I said that if issue 10 passes, it will then be council's responsibility to appoint the commission. That's the next step in the process and is an opportunity to reinforce inclusivity and reinforce that our village is a welcoming community. One of the ways to do this is to make sure that we have residents on the commission who may have had reservations about or even opposed the ordinance. This will be at the discretion of the council, but something I will be advocating for. I'm recommending that the administration and our legal counsel prepare a proposal on how to move forward with the creation of the commission and have that proposal prepared to discuss with council when we reconvene in the new year. In the meantime, I'm going to make myself available to hear concerns any residents or business owners here in the village may have about the implementation of the ordinance. I'll answer any questions I can and bring whatever remaining concerns there are to council. so that folks can feel that they're being heard at the highest level and treated with respect as we move forward. I've never seen this as an us or them thing, but rather as an opportunity to make a more inclusive community. I was surprised but proud to learn last year that I was the first non-Jewish mayor to attend synagogue here in Gulf Manor. As mayor, I'm not going to support anything that I think will hurt our Orthodox community. I want to encourage all of our council members to send folks my way if you encounter anyone that has concerns about how we're moving forward. It's important that we as elected officials serve as a force of village unity. The voters have spoken, but there's still a lot of work to do. And I'm confident that we'll be able to do that work in a unifying way that respects all of our residents. And that is the end of my report. Mr. Hirth, do you have an administration report? Mr. Hirth, you are probably muted.
Can you hear me now?
Can hear you now. Thank you.
Perfect. I had to switch to my iPad, so I'm very close. So to piggyback on what the mayor just said, I have tried over the last couple of weeks to calm some of the fears, some of the rhetoric that was being passed around regarding issue 10, because the day after election day, this approved ordinance falls on my desk and my staff to be able to implement this and to work with council. By no means was this ordinance in concrete at this point. There may be things that we find that we didn't think through, or things that don't work well, or things that we find better methods to make this work. And I trust that council will have an open arms and open hearts to be able to fix whatever, or to enhance what has been created thus far. I'm thankful that I believe we can have a dialogue with those who were for the ordinance and those against, to be able to find some middle ground in terms of implementation that everybody feels good about. So I look forward to support from all the council members on making this happen. Mr. Donnellan is going to talk a little bit more specifically about what next steps will become for Ordinance 2019-10, and I'll conclude those comments for Mr. Donnellan's continued discussion. Also piggybacking on what the mayor talked about with COVID came knocking at our door this afternoon. I sent an email out to everyone this afternoon that we were informed around 4 o'clock that one of our employees in the administration tested positive for the COVID virus. As a result, we've closed the building for the next several days, and Andy, Anna, and I will be working remotely during this period. During that time, we will be able to provide the same high level of service as we normally do, because we are able to be reached and work from our remote offices at home, just like we were sitting in the administration building. So if there's anything that our residents need, we will be able to respond. In addition, as infections continue to increase in Hamilton County, we are still reminding the staff to remain vigilant. And today's example tells us that we don't know who's going to be stricken and when, and who it might affect. We also have some folks over in the fire department that are dealing with exposures also. So please keep everybody in your thoughts and prayers, and we're hoping for speedy recoveries and getting back to normal as soon as possible. Regarding election day operations, the configuration that we used directing the voters to the back of the community hall worked very, very well. So much so that the poll workers have asked for us to continue this practice in the future. People were able to enter at the new wheelchair ramp in the back. circulate around the building, exit through the kitchen doors, and all of the COVID protocols that needed to be followed worked well in doing that. An added benefit, and I know many people who have supported our levies here by passing out literature, was an enhanced safety for those who were campaigning, as they no longer needed to cross the street in the traffic to hand out literature. That enhancement alone, I feel, made it worth the investments that we did earlier in the year to make that room more workable for elections, and that was a huge payoff for us. Everybody in your packet should have received a PDF of the proposed 2021 council meeting dates that last year council adopted at the first meeting of 2020. I guess that's this year. I've worked this list with Mr. Pridenoff. There are 2 holidays that we need to consider. One is Tuesday, May 25th, which is the Memorial Day holiday. So we would move Monday, May 24th is the holiday. We would move that council meeting to Tuesday, May 25th. That impacts finance at 6 p.m., council at 7 p.m., and we are also scheduled to have an audit committee meeting that day at 5:30. The other exception would be the week of September. I don't have the calendar in front of me. The second council meeting of September moves to Thursday, September 20th, due to Sukkot. That would also again impact finance at 6 and 7. And then we're scheduled that night also to have an audit committee meeting at 5:30. That being the case, if you see any other conflicts, I've not heard anything from anybody since we published this last Tuesday, please get in touch with me as soon as possible so we can make any changes. And the important thing to note is that the first council meeting of the year will be on Monday, January 11th, executive in 6 and council at 7. And we'll have that on our calendar so everybody knows that that begins our new calendar year for 2021.
Mr. Hirth, real quick, for the May 2021, Memorial Day is not till the 31st.
Okay. We'll check that out. Thanks for pointing that out. Any other questions? Okay. On Project 47, nothing new to report this evening. Mr. Donnellan, is it necessary for us to have an executive session this evening? I don't believe it is.
No, I don't think so. Probably if we do one, it might be appropriate at our next meeting on the 2 weeks from that 23rd.
So no executive session this
No.
evening.
No.
Perfect. On Vera Avenue construction, engineering and design continues. We're anticipating an announcement of the bid process right after the Thanksgiving holiday, and we'll make sure that council is aware when that takes place. As an update for our road project 5-year plan, last week we submitted applications for funding for 2022. That included our primary project of Elbrook Avenue from Lasanaville to the Cincinnati Corp line, Weehee Road from Cincinnati to Amberley, and then the Hamel project and Canterbury. And then there is a Canterbury Inglewood project. There is enough funding out there that the engineer felt that we should put in 4 separate bids and see what looks feasible for us to accomplish. After we get a sense of what funding is going to actually be available, we'll proceed to lock down our strategy and report back to council. So this is anything that we do after 2021. As everybody knows, we're committed to do the Vera Avenue corridor in 2021. The speed hump project is complete. All the construction is done. I believe the painting has been completed. There might be one on Ardmore that needs to be painted yet because there was a very wet spot. The signage will be completed sometime within the next 2 weeks. There are still 15-mile-per-hour signs that need to be mounted under the actual speed hump signs. One of the changes that we made over on Ardmore was to make those humps compliant with the signage and marking strategy that we've used now throughout the rest of the village. So that's the addition of some signs and also the changing of the way the actual speed humps were marked. We were able to respond positively to a couple of requests from residents to have poles moved from the new signs, and that worked out well. So I'm glad we were able to work cooperatively with residents to make that happen. Just so you're aware, the new security system should be live sometime this week. We will distribute assigned key fobs to all personnel at that time. So we'll get those to the council members. There are some adjustments that will be made in terms of time frame for people to access the building, particularly those who are not elected officials and are volunteers. But we'll have a complete statement about what those restrictions are as we get closer to the actual implementation of the program. And that completes my comments for this evening. I would turn to Mr. Lanzer at this point to talk a little bit about leaf collection. Andy?
Yep, thanks. Leaf collection's been ongoing for about a week and a half. The guys are out there every day in the village picking up leaves. I just want to reiterate something I brought up during the executive committee meeting this evening. If residents, please refrain as much as possible from brushing the leaves into the street. It poses a number of challenges for the village. Mainly, it's a safety hazard. And as Ms. Snyder mentioned, it also leads to problems when it rains a lot and the leaves cover sewer grates. All that water has to go somewhere, and often it ends up in residents' basements. The service guys, when they come across this, will provide a notice to village residents, and they will proceed to collect the leaves at that time. However, I've advised them to only collect them once. We will handle it when it happens repeatedly. We'll handle it on a case-by-case basis from there. But leaves are being picked up. It's going as smoothly as it can. We have additional staff here, so that's helping out with the days and the amount of time that that service department is collecting leaves. So yeah, for the most part, it's operating smoothly.
Thank you, Mr. Lanzer. Are we ready? Are there any questions, or are we ready to go to the fiscal officer's report? All right.
Okay, no major report this evening. I'll have a full report for the month of October at the next finance meeting, and I will discuss it again during council. I am putting the final touches on the appropriations budget for 2021. When I have that completed, I will forward it to each council member as well as the mayor for review well in advance of the next council meeting. Again, it's our goal to get that passed at the next council meeting so we don't have to have another meeting in December. End of report.
Thank you, Mr. Lanzer. Chief Campbell, the police report.
Hi, good evening, everybody. First thing I have is the mayor's court report for the month of October. Total to the village is $3,078. Total to the state, $617.50. There were $78 in the other line bringing a total of $3,773.50. That is the end of the mayor's court report.
Thank you, Chief. Do we have a motion to accept the report?
Motion to
moved.
accept the,
Second.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Looks unanimous. Thank you, Chief.
Okay, a couple other things I wanted to bring to mayor and council's attention is our K-9 team on October 21st recently passed its state recertification. That's a strenuous program, and we were once again successful. So congrats go out to K-9 Chief and his driver, Lieutenant Forrest. Also, I wanted to pass along that we are once again participating in the federal 1033 program, which allows us access to federal surplus property. Examples of which will be video teleconferencing equipment, shade netting that could be used in the park. All of this allows us to get these items at no cost through the federal surplus program. There's no cost to the village or the taxpayers at all. So we'll touch base with Mr. Hirth on things we're able to get and how they can benefit all of us here. And finally, I just wanted to pass along that we're currently interviewing some candidates to fill some open part-time police positions, and we will keep you in the loop as how that goes forward. And that is all I have, unless there's any questions.
Chief, I have a question. The surplus thing that you had mentioned, are there vehicles available, like a fire truck?
We have not come across that. That is, now fire equipment is probably not going to be there, but this program encompasses everything from semi-tractor trailers to campers to clothing items. We are currently dipping our toes back into the program and getting things that we can manage. Some of the things you apply for, if you're selected to be awarded, you still have to go accept the material. You have to bring it back. You have to inspect it to make sure it's in good condition. But we are definitely looking for any and everything that can help us all.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Chief. And is that the end of your report?
That is all I have, yes.
Very good. Thank you, sir. And with that, I'll ask for a roll call, second quorum.
Mr. Betcher,
Here.
Ms. Cheney,
Sorry, I'm here.
okay. Mr. Knipp,
Here.
Mr. Purdenoff,
Here.
Ms. Snyder,
here,
and Mr. Van Horn.
Here.
All members present.
Thank you, Mr. Lanzer. All right, Mr. Donnellan, solicitors report, legislation and discussion.
Thank you. We have one piece of legislation tonight, which is a resolution to continue our HSA contribution program. I think this was initiated in 2018. We renewed it last year through the close of this year, and it's extending it for one more year. I need a motion to read by title only.
So motion.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Without objection, that looks unanimous.
And this is resolution number 2020-18, a resolution continuing the program for village and employee contributions to health savings accounts. I need a motion, a second, discussion, and a roll call vote.
So moved.
second,
Any questions, discussion?
Okay, what I would add to this is the same program that we started with. So when we do our negotiations with Haran, representing us for healthcare programs, so our benefit year runs July 1st to June 30th. We take a look at the cost of our high deductible healthcare plan and the potential for reimbursement or collection of pre-tax monies that our employees can use for healthcare. We did not see a significant increase in out-of-pocket expenses that would require changing this program. So we are recommending that the program stays intact as it is. If you may recall, and this would be for the new members of council, when we first started the HSA accounts, the village seeds the account with $1,000. After that, on a quarterly basis, employees are eligible to have up to $250 a quarter matched by the village in what they have saved. So employees make contributions to their HSA accounts quarterly. If you contribute $300 to your account, the village will match up to $250. If you contribute $100, the village will contribute $100 to match. That is a way of making our high deductible healthcare plan more palatable. And at this time, I believe we only have 3 employees who have chosen to participate in the primary care plan. That plan is more expensive. So the base, if you recall from back when we talked about this in June, the village offers as the standard healthcare plan, the high deductible plan, but our employees can buy up into the more expensive plan. And in that particular plan, we do not offer the healthcare savings account because it is not allowed by law to do that.
Any questions? Are we ready for a roll call vote? All right, Mr. Lanzer.
Mr. Batcher,
Yes.
Ms. Cheney,
Yes.
Mr. Knapp,
Yes.
Mr. Pridnoff,
Yes.
Ms. Snyder,
Yes.
Mr. Van Horn.
Yes.
Resolution 2020-18 passes.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah,
Mr. Donelan, did you want to speak about the ordinance 2019-10?
Yeah, I want to talk about that just real quickly. In your packet also was some information for not discussion tonight, to give you some background on what we've discussed before on amending our ordinance relative to these pandemic emergencies that are not recognized in our statute. And so I put that information in there for you to take a look at, and we can discuss at a later date. On the non-discrimination ordinance, first of all, nothing can be done probably for a few weeks till the election gets certified. So we're in a holding pattern until the Board of Elections certifies it, which will probably push us into the new year. And as the mayor pointed out, that's the time for us to start looking at the next step in the process, which is to appoint the 5-member commission that's included in our ordinance. It's appointed by council. 3 of those members must be residents of the community. And as the mayor pointed out, it's a great way for us to kick off that commission and find a unifying way that respects all residents by including a lot of different people in that commission. We don't even have the ability right now to take a complaint. So the fear that may be out there that we're going to get a rush of complaints, this can't happen because we can't take a complaint until such time as we have a commission. And really, we've got to let the commission get their legs underneath them. They need to set up what their process rules may be on how a complaint comes in. And something else we're going to need to think of going into the new year is budgeting. The only component of this where we have any cost involved would be if we pay a mediator. And the whole ordinance is structured on a complaint coming in, it being immediately vetted by the commission. If there is no basis for the complaint, it's dismissed. If there is some basis for the complaint, then it's referred to this conciliation process before any hearing is held. And we talked about this and we put into our ordinance the provision for a mediator. So there may be a number of mediators who would volunteer their time, but it may make sense for us to have some funding set up. Keep in mind, the commission's role is not just to sit there and judge complaints. We put a component in there charging the commission with the responsibility of educating the public regarding the need for inclusivity. So there's a great opportunity there for the commission also to be healing power, to take it upon themselves as volunteers for how can we bring everybody together in support of this. What we passed and what the voters resoundingly approved is a foundation for this system, a strong foundation. And it's up to us to build on that. Well, there's no need to tear it down. You know, we went through this process in terms of revoking it. There's no need to tear it down, but as the commission gets up and running, there might be some requests to tweak it. One of the things we heard in the process, and maybe that's a tweak, is whether there should be a cap on the civil penalties. So no one feels like there's going to be a $500 a day penalty and put them out of business. The purpose was never to be punitive. The purpose was trying to bring people together and most importantly, find an outlet where there's never been an outlet before for someone who feels that they have been wronged. They have a basis to come and complain, have somebody listen, and somebody help them to act. There's no litigation. No litigation can really occur until something is done. So any rhetoric that says we're immediately get sued, can it happen? If somebody can find a parking spot downtown and pay the fee, yeah. Will they have any merit to it? No. So we've got a foundation, a strong foundation. We have overwhelming support from the community. So our next step, probably in the new year, is to take a look at setting up that commission and empowering that commission to start implementing the ordinance. Questions or comments?
In the process of this, I've met quite a few residents, had some wonderful discussions. And in the process of that, I've come across a few people that I would love to nominate to be considered for that commission that I think are fair, that were really just wise people on both sides of the issues and really wrestled with it themselves. And so how, are we able to do that at some point, offer names to nominate or to be considered, or how does that work? How are we going to do that? Do we know?
Ultimately, when we get into the new year, we'll talk about that process, who the people are. I don't know that we want to get into a process where we've got a slate of 15 candidates and we're battling to one resident against another to whittle it down to 5. But it makes sense. I think the mayor talked about him implementing a plan with the village administrator, myself, and maybe bringing it back to executive committee on who is interested and what do we do to vet them. Because it's one thing for somebody to say, yeah, I'll do that. But there's probably a process where they want to be vetted, to sit down and talk to them, to find out why they have that interest, how they're going to carry it out, to make sure we get a very inclusive, diverse, and objective commission. So hold those volunteers on the list, and when we get to the first of the year, we'll figure that next step out.
Yeah, I guess my thought of that is, I think there's value in having people that may not know that they're already kind of seen as people that are going to wrestle with this really well. They may not be interested now, but if they're asked to say, you know what, like a couple of people I've told, I think you'd be great on this commission because of their position in life, their whatever. And I think they may not be interested in that sense, but by asking them. So I think a nomination window is important, not just for those people that are interested in doing it.
Yeah, we just got to figure out what that process is. Do we put a note out there that we're taking applications? Never want to turn down a volunteer, because most oftentimes we're voluntolding people they have to participate. So save those names. And when we figure this out, when we get into 2021, it's a great foundation for us to start to build a commission, because we have people who are interested.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Donnellan. Any other questions? All right. Is that the end of your report? Anything else?
Nothing more, thank you.
All right. Executive Committee, Ms. Snyder, do you have a report?
I do. Exec met for the final time in 2020 tonight. It was a brief meeting. We had our newest member join us, Mr. Wilkinson, which was great. We discussed our priorities for 2021, and that includes working on a suggestion packet for council on ways that we can alleviate the parking struggles that we have in our village currently. And also that we will be reviewing our garbage contract, which comes up for renewal next year. And that is basically all. Any questions?
Are you, one of my questions I've had since I've started this position is, how do we make motions for other ideas to be considered either by executive or council?
I think
do
you
we write a
could.
letter to the executive committee and through the mayor? Because there's things that come up that I just don't know how to officially at least see if they can get in the queue, so to speak.
I think any of those avenues would be fine. Either the mayor, Mr. Hirth, or myself would be a great way to get those added to our agenda.
Do you prefer that in writing? I was inspired by David Mann's letter to the Cincinnati Council when there was that accident on Lusanaville. It was published. I go, wow, that's something that kind of helps people package it, turn it in, and get considered. And that's what kind of made me think about us doing that too.
I think an email would be perfect.
Okay,
Thank you.
email. Okay.
I'm of the same opinion. I'm always open for a phone call, but I will probably ask you to follow up your phone call with an email because that's just, that helps me.
Sure.
I think we should make it a little more difficult because we are government and that's kind of our mandate.
We'll take that under advisement.
Thank you.
All right. Education, Ms. Cheney.
Hi. LSDMC at PRM meets this Wednesday at 3:00. And I will get with you, Stefan, and you give me your questions and then I can ask them and they don't cover it. I do believe that they are all still in school at least 2 days a week.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Okay.
If I may, just because my daughter attends Nativity, I know there's other students too. I get a report about once a week from the principal. They've had one case of a volleyball coach, but I don't think it was actually a staff member. So they reported it, but it didn't go in they reported to the parents, and they've had maybe 2 students now. And as a result, 15 were quarantined. But other than that, it's been very, very quiet. It's been pretty good. So anyway, I just wanted to throw that in if that's okay. Thanks.
Very good. No, I appreciate it. And if you would, because I would like to have Nativity in our, in our knowledge base as well as in terms of what's going on around us. When you get any change reports, any reports of change with that, can you forward those along to Ms. Cheney about what's going on with Nativity?
Yeah, I could what I'm willing to do is I could forward the principal's news, which includes that, to Sharon when I get them. Go from, that's probably the quickest and easiest way to do it.
All right, perfect. Will that work for you, Ms. Cheney?
Yeah, yes.
Okay, perfect. Nonprofit, Mr. Pridenoff.
No report.
No report. Fire District, Mr. Van Harn and Mr. Lanzer.
The next Little Miami Fire Board virtual meeting will be Wednesday, November 18th, 2020 at 6 p.m. End of report.
All right. Mr. Betcher, Planning Commission.
No report. Next planning commission meeting scheduled for Monday, December 7th at 6:30, pending any business.
All right. Mr. Knepp, Engagement.
No report.
All right. Mr. Betcher, Finance Committee.
No report as finance did not meet this evening. We are meeting 2 weeks from tonight.
All right. Let's see. So next council meeting, as far as announcements, next council meeting I have November 23rd, 2020 at 7 p.m. Next finance, as was stated, November 23rd, 6 p.m. Future scheduled dates for council and committee meetings. Everyone should have these. Let's see, Monday, December 14th, 7 p.m. If no pending business, we'll cancel. That would mean Monday, January 11th, 2021, 7 p.m. And Monday, January 25th, 2021, 7 p.m. All right. Anything else? And if not, do we have a motion to close?
So, Mr. Mayor, just a reminder to the council members that, as Mr. Lanzer stated, appropriations will be before council at that next meeting on the 23rd. It's important that if you see issues, once he sends those out, to let us know so we can make changes.
Thank you, Mr. Hirth. Any other questions? Do I have a motion to close?
Motioned.
Second.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Without objection, I take that as unanimous. Thank you for your service, everyone. Have a great evening.